Hello friends, and welcome back to the craziness. Excuse anything that you may hear in the background from my parrot, Kiwi, the dogs. I don't know, I just decided I'm gonna sit down. I've had some questions about our recent decision to homeschool, and I have the first day since homeschooling that Nana has the kids for some hours today, so I thought I would sit down and just share my informal thoughts. Okay, so our decision to homeschool came kind of abruptly, probably it appeared, but I've actually been considering this since last summer. It's January now, just for reference, so I want to share some of the things that swayed my decision, and my husband's, of course, to homeschool, and what the experience is like transitioning kids from public school to homeschool. So I'm in Missouri. I'm not claiming to be an expert. Obviously, this has only been 2 weeks, but I'll share some of my experience. I have some curriculum in front of me that I can share what I chose for curriculum, as well as how I came across that conclusion and what I think about it so far. And if you have additional questions that you want me to elaborate on, just leave them in the comments and I'll be happy to do that further if needed. Okay, so our main decision, this thought first came to mind back last summer. Actually, my next door neighbor and friend decided to homeschool her kids, and I was like, you are crazy. I could never, would never, should never do that. I have never looked at being a teacher myself. I have so much respect for teachers and educators, and honestly I was very intimidated by that, so I wasn't even considering this. And this is something that I feel like honestly God has just put on my heart since then. And so at that time I was added to some groups for homeschooling on Facebook. There's a lot of great information out there if you're kind of like considering it, but in that same place where maybe you're intimidated by it like I was. And I just kind of was a fly on the wall watching and asking questions. We own a furniture store locally in my area, and I had several clients that came in and would tell me that they homeschool and what their experience was. And so I just did a lot of research on people who I know that are actually homeschooling and what their experiences were, what curriculums that they used. And I feel like that was really beneficial in me making my decision. My husband was honestly really against homeschooling. I'm just gonna be full transparent here. We have had the perception, when I first told my husband about, hey, I think I wanna homeschool, he immediately was like, for one, I don't want our kids to be those weird homeschooled kids. As we were growing up, just for reference, I'm in my early 30s, my husband is 40. I can't say early 30s for much longer. I'm 33, so I'm gonna be mid 30s soon. Anyways, we just grew up in that kind of time frame where homeschooling was weird. Kids weren't socialized. They couldn't make eye contact with you, whatever. And it seems to be ever growing more popularly for various reasons. So basically he was against it, and we just don't have a lot of education around it. Any experience that we personally knew was a negative one growing up. So kind of some of the things, because I've already gotten this question several times, is what swayed your opinion, or what swayed your husband if the wife is for it and the husband's against it. Honestly, Christian started watching a lot of Warrior Poet Society. If you are a man, especially military, a lot of men know him. He does a lot with what's his name? I can't even think of his name right now. Ooh, I don't know, Christian would be so disappointed in me. But Warrior Poet Society, there's a book, and basically the way that he lives his life with his wife and their homesteading entertainment show kind of led to Christian being exposed, my husband Christian being exposed to that they also homeschool. And he was sharing a lot of facts on why he homeschools and why they homeschool and blah, blah, blah. And I guess that made Christian more open-minded to it. And then he started really listening and digging in on the research. So it did take time for us to both be open to this. And I never thought we would be homeschooling, honestly, in a million years. So there's that aspect. I've gotten a lot of questions about the time. So we are small business owners. We've had a brick and mortar business for about 3 years. We've expanded a lot. Like, we are just nose to the grindstone. And so last summer, whenever I first heard about this, although I feel like God had it on my heart, I was instantly, both me and my husband was like, how are you going to have the time to do that? You know, we don't have the time, but how? And so that's kind of the question I've been asking God this whole time is, okay, I feel a stirring in my heart. I feel like this is what I want to do, but how? And long story short, we had to kind of figure out some things financially, my role within our business. We have some incredible employees and teams that make this possible, and basically had to figure out some other financial avenues to make this possible. But I truly believe that if something's on your heart to do it, and you can find, you know, if you know the why, then the how is easy, and your brain will start going to work finding ways for you to achieve what is important to you. So part of that decision is, you know, we, over the past several years, had, and I know a lot of people feel this way, my son right now is 5 and my daughter is 10. And they have very different personalities. And so my daughter is like an overachiever. She absolutely loves school. She excels in it. She's social. My son, he's 5, and he is very mechanically inclined, like my husband Christian and like my dad, and he wants to just move around. He doesn't like to sit still. It's really hard for him to focus. And so what I had noticed was with my daughter, she has always in school excelled. She's always been the kid that, you know, would bring things home, and like she was very not open to homeschooling when we first talked about this last year. She's like, I would miss my friends. I don't want to do that. And my son would very much be like, man, it's kindergarten. It's his first year in kindergarten. And he's like, I have to wake up every day. Like, he's devastated to find out that this is real life where you have to actually do things 5 days a week or more. So he was like, oh yeah, this means no school forever. Like, I'm excited about it. So very different personalities, but my son actually, not that he was falling behind, but he was, you know, all of his scores was like either meeting or almost meeting, and definitely not exceeding. I don't feel like he was thriving. And I want to say I have nothing negative to say about our school. If you are local or wondering, like, nothing bad happened. And I have so much respect for teachers and educators. I just feel like we were called to do it. And I believe that, you know, when a teacher is responsible for 20 different students or more, and now seeing what I have learned through how my son and daughter are learning, I'm like, man, I care more about their education, right, as a mother or a parent than anyone else. So that's kind of what led to that decision. So when we actually decided, we had actually went through Christmas break, and so the kids were off for 2 weeks. Now, in our business and all the other entrepreneur crazy things that we have going on, we have a very busy life. And so Christian, my husband, told me over Christmas break, he's like, hey, I want you to stay home with the kids this Christmas break. I don't want you to come into work. So I was doing stuff virtually. I have 2 other businesses that I do virtually. And I was able to be home every single day with my kids over this Christmas break, which is very, very rare for me and my kids to be home together. We ended up getting a ton of snow and ice, and I was home an additional week with them. And when kind of, you know, the majority of people are like, gosh, I can't wait for these kids to go back to school, I was like, I'm heartbroken right now. I am heartbroken over my kids going back to school. I want to spend time with them. I feel like the years are going by so quick. And I have a lot of guilt, to be honest. When we started our business about 3 years ago, it went from my kids having a very flexible schedule. I was mama, I was home taking care of the house, packing their lunches, being involved with them, to honestly our brick and mortar business consuming every aspect of our life and adding a lot of stress and sacrifice to our kids. So I do have a lot of guilt over the last couple of years that I've been like entrepreneur, I hate to even say this, like boss babe, which I am, that's a whole nother topic that I do not like. And my heart has been struggling because I want to be home with my kid, not home with my kids all the time. I mean, I want to be ambitious and have the things that I want to do, but I have been yearning to spend this time with my kids. And I just know that the only things I've ever regretted in life are the opportunities that we don't take, not the ones that we've taken and tried and maybe it hasn't worked out. So we kind of weighed the good and the bad. And, you know, I said, you know, although I feel very, like, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how I'm going to add more to my plate, because although I'm not in store at our store, I have to still do those tasks daily and the other businesses, but I'm gonna have to find a way to do that. And it's actually worked out really great so far. But anyways, so that was kind of part of the decision-making process. And once I decided to do it and my husband was on board, I was like, I want to do this. Can I do this? And once he agreed and we were sure that we wanted to do it, what does that process look like? So like I said, if you are considering this, you can message me on Facebook or Instagram. It's just Corinne Roth. And I can tell you some of the groups that I found helpful, but if you just go to Facebook and search like homeschool groups, or if there's a certain curriculum, so I'll talk a little bit about this. One of the groups I was added to, and one of the curriculum brands, is called The Good and the Beautiful. We are Christians, and that's part of my also reason for wanting to do more homeschooling, which also could have been attained with private schooling or even Christian-based supplemental school, is I really want my kids to have God at the forefront of their education. And obviously in public school, that's not always the narrative that is included in their education. So basically, The Good and the Beautiful has a Christian outlook, and that is a very common one. And my neighbor who was homeschooling had actually added me to one of those groups. So that was a great one that I just kind of got to be a fly on the wall and see what other people said, see what the curriculum was like. My husband's a Marine, and he always tells me this, and I'm so grateful for this perspective. He says, a lot of what we don't do in life has to do with the fear of the unknown. It's so scary because we don't know what it's going to be like, and we want to control things, and we want to have comfort as humans, and so the fear of the unknown is the biggest obstacle. And so I had all of that fear of the unknown of what is this going to be like? What is my day going to look like? What's my schedule going to look like? Am I going to have time? All of those things. So after researching some of those groups, and finding other people in communities of, hey, how long does this take? I ended up choosing, and I can do a separate video on this if you care. I don't know how the homeschool content's gonna go, but I know that I wanna be a resource, not just when I'm maybe an expert or if we ever even get there. I don't think so. But, during this process, while it's still very new for me, because then hopefully some of you who are maybe considering this or, in the early stages will relate to this more than once I maybe one day have it all figured out, because I definitely don't right now. And we have honestly been thriving, and I am so grateful that we were able to make this decision. So what I ended up doing is once we decided what are the things that you need to do. So we're in Missouri. You can check your state laws on this. Missouri is very lax on homeschooling, and so all I had to do, and those groups are also a really great resource where I've seen several people ask this question, okay, we decided to homeschool, now what do we do? Basically starts with sending a letter of intent to your superintendent and making sure that you have, so we sent it certified mail so that we had proof that it was sent and received. And I also sent emails to superintendent, anyone that I felt like needed to know within the school, but it's really only the superintendent that needs to be notified that basically you are withdrawing your kids from the public school system. You don't have to provide a reason for them. We had nothing to hide. We have a great close relationship with our school district, so I did let them know that it was because we were homeschooling, but basically that way, they know that you've removed them from their school system. They don't have to be relied on for records anymore or reporting for your child. And like I said, there's different homeschool websites that you can look, and I even actually got a sample letter of what it should say according to Daisy. See, the dogs, birds, kids, you never know what's gonna happen. But you can actually get a sample letter, and it will state it very professionally that an attorney had reviewed it. So I was asked to sign something from the superintendent. He sent back and said, just sign this acknowledging that you are removing your kid from the public school system. I was advised not to sign that. It's not a requirement for us that we have to. And the superintendent said that my letter of removal or withdrawal would suffice. So on that letter, it also asked for their transcripts to be sent to me. And so I was given their most recent transcripts, test scores, things like that, and they mailed to us. So, that is, you have the ability, at least in our state, to make that decision to homeschool your kids. If you look up the laws for your state, Missouri does request that you keep a log of hours. It's a very reasonable amount of hours. I don't know if this varies state to state, and like I said, I can elaborate more if necessary, or you can just look this up yourself on what your hours are. And a certain amount of them have to be in core subjects. So with that being said, then it moves on to what does the structure look like, right? So if you are interested in any of those courses, choosing a curriculum would be really your first step once you have withdrawn them from their school. And basically whenever I was selecting my curriculum, I don't want to go too deep on this. Like I said, if people want more information, I can. So just ask the question in the comment or DM me on Facebook or Instagram, and I would be happy to. But the way that I chose my curriculum was I knew what I wanted within, I wanted it to be Christian based. I wanted it to be hands-on. So here's the challenging part for me. What I didn't know when we decided to do this, I just am kind of like, hey, let's decide to do something, and then let's jump out of a plane and then decide to build a parachute on the way down and hope that we have damage control, activator. If you haven't ever taken the Clifton Gallup Strength Finder test, maybe you should, because it'll make you very aware of yourself. And I am an activator, which means that once we decide something, we just do it and we figure out a way. And it will also tell you that you have to be careful of this and warn you about being impulsive. So just a side note there, if we're talking about education and real life strategies. So I decided on my curriculum, and I actually used the app ChatGPT and gave a very specific set of criteria of what I wanted for my kids. And I know that that'll be controversial, but if you have not used ChatGPT and you have a business or, even just like laws, I mean, it can pull up so much. It's an absolutely incredible tool. I told it to make me a lesson plan. That's a whole nother topic, but it's amazing. So through research and through the use of ChatGPT and realizing kind of once that set in that first day that I'm like, okay, tomorrow we start homeschooling. I didn't really do preparation. We didn't have a room ready, anything like that. I planned to do it at our kitchen table. And so with that first day, I decided to do the Good and the Beautiful is one of the curriculums that I had already looked into. You can go to their website and look at sample pages and just see if you think it's a good fit. I have some of them here. I'll probably do a separate video on the curriculum just so that this video isn't too long, and I'll explain what I like and don't like about each one of them. So I'll probably cut this off soon and do a second video if you care to watch more on the curriculum. But I ended up choosing a combination of 2 different curriculums. So just to end this and leave this pretty broad here, if you're considering homeschooling your kid, or your kids, that is kind of the process, is just deciding to do it and being patient. And, for us, there's so many things that I wish that I would have learned that I feel like were more practical than, and this is just a joke and it's no shade intended to the education system, but instead of learning, have you ever heard the meme, instead of learning about parallelograms, I sure wish I would have learned about taxes or, so many other things. And so whenever it comes time for parallelogram season, you know what I mean, instead of tax season. So there's so many life skills that I'm like, man, we're living this hamster wheel of going to work every day. My husband used to work up at Boeing, and it was like an hour drive there, an hour drive back, being in the rat race. Now we have our own business and we work 1 million hours a week for free, essentially, and all the stress of that. And then we get home and it's like someone else is raising our kids and we're paying babysitters and we're all these things. And I'm like, I don't even know my, the unique gifts and talents of my children in that time. I felt like I wasn't getting the time in with them, and who better to teach your kids than you, So we just really felt like there's a lot of life skills that we want our kids to know. Like, I can't keep a plant alive I shouldn't say that now. I can keep a plant alive now, but it's taken me over 30 years to learn that, because my parents also lived the same way, where they were kind of in the rat race, just trying to keep food on the table. And I feel like when it came time for me to be a wife and be a mother and try to keep a plant alive, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to cook. I didn't really know how to clean. I didn't know, if you follow me on social media, you know my thoughts now on holistic, the whole holistic world and the autoimmune disease that I've struggled with, and that whole debacle on, what's common versus what God gave us to heal ourselves. And anyways, just through all of that, I'm like, man, there's so many life lessons here that I want my kids how to know how to grow a plant, how to live, how to survive themselves, there's so many things that I want to teach them that are actual life skills and that are hard lessons that I had to learn. And although I agree with schoolwork and books, and my next video will be on the curriculum that I chose, I also want my kids to know Jesus, and I want them to have a firm foundation, and I want them to have self-confidence, and I want them to have kindness. And when their minds are so moldable at these young ages, 5 and 10, I want them to have a firm foundation in who they are and what God says about them, and have a regulated nervous system. And then if they choose that they want to go back to public school, where it's the wild out there or the wild of the interwebs and all the things that we have, you know, nowadays, then they will feel equipped and prepared for that. And so I don't know what's going to happen with this journey. We might go back to public school next year. I don't know. But this is my journey as it unfolds with my kids and my family. And these are some of the things that led us in that direction. You know, the world is just, it's always a crazy place. And I, more than anything, just want to spend time with my kids, and I want to see what unique gifts and talents that they have within them and develop that and learn how they think. And it has been the most precious, challenging, fulfilling, nerve-wracking, terrifying, there's so many adjectives. And it's even been good for me. I've relearned so many things, you know? So anyways, I will continue this with a second video, but this is gonna conclude my first video on our experience on why we decided to homeschool. And I will do a separate video here on what curriculum that we chose. But if you are considering homeschooling, if there is any way that you can make it work, you know, just decide that you're gonna do it and start messy. And I just hope that my messy, imperfect, impulsive action to decide to homeschool my kids and not have a room set up or even books ordered, you know, if you decide to do something, go full force into it and figure it out as you go. There's so many resources, so much support. I'm here to support you. I share some of these things on my social media pages, and I will share more here in this next video about what curriculum that I chose and why and how that's going in more detail. Thank you for watching. If you feel inclined, please share, subscribe, like, all those things, whatever it may be. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.